Welcome back to Planet 13. This is Cultivated Live. I'm Jay Rosenthal. She is Krista Raymer. We are in our third day from here at Planet 13 in Las Vegas. We are here with Vince Ning from Nabis.
Hey.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Give us the lowdown on Nabis, then we're going to dive in.
Cool. Nabis, we are one of the largest cannabis distributors in the industry. I started this business 6 years, almost 7 years ago now, back in California. And, we've grown to be the largest distributor by volume. We distribute about $500 million worth of products a year. It consists of about 22% of California's market. And that's comprised of, on the supplier side, over 300 brands. And on the retail side, we distribute to about almost 100% of retailers in the state. Most recently, we actually just started working in New York. And one of our partners was actually just out there.
Perfect.
Yeah, just coincidentally, he was checking out the Planet 13 retail, experience and seeing what he could bring back to New York, I guess. But it's been a great journey, and now sort of the focus of the company is to build the national distribution infrastructure for the cannabis industry. You can think of it as like the Amtrak for cannabis. It's not the coolest or sexiest thing, but someone needs to build the rail system for cannabis products.
What were you doing before? Is it logistics? Is that even what were you doing before?
I was not in logistics, but I was an engineer, like a software engineer. So much of this, I take from an approach, from a standpoint of an engineering mindset. At the end of the day, it's one big complex math problem. And, prior to this, I had a company called Scaffold that I ended up selling to Amazon. That was not a logistics company. It was a developer tools company. But that was like my first foray into the startup world, and I loved it and wanted to keep going and doing it. Prior to that, I just worked at Microsoft as a run-of-the-mill software engineer up in Seattle. So saw that market come live back then. It was one of the first markets with Colorado. I've always just been like a consumer and excited about the industry. And when I was in California doing my last company, California legalized. So I was like, okay, this thing is following me or I'm following it. Just get in the industry.
Everybody should thank you.
Yeah.
You should spend more time in New York so they can move it faster.
Right.
Are there advantages of being in a market from the get-go? Like thinking about New York, like they have very little infrastructure, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Like there are growers and products, but there's also only like 20 retailers. Like not all the trappings of a full industry are in place yet. Is there advantages to take what you've learned in California and bring it to New York?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, there's always this sort of general business principle of first mover advantage, but it doesn't actually, I'm trying to think in my experience, sometimes it actually works in your favor to be number two.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Yeah, just like wait till number one falls and then you can take the crown. Distribution's a little bit different in that, again, using the sort of like train track analogy, a lot of brands or manufacturers end up, because there's no, FedEx for the industry, they end up building their own trucking and warehousing solutions. And once you go down that path, it's like, a slippery slope. You like, maybe I can justify buying one more truck before you have like 20 trucks.
Right.
And then, when an actual third-party distributor comes in, who's an expert at it, tries to sell that brand or manufacturer on distribution services or fulfillment services, they're just like, I have my own already. But it's not obviously like more scalable. It's just that there's a sunk cost fallacy. And so for us, all that is to say is it's important to be in the market early to ensure that no one goes down that path, like building each their own rail system, which is really inefficient for any supply chain or frankly the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about what the footprint looks like? Like California's a massive state. It's very difficult to get around in normal terms, but even just in terms of distributing sort of regulated product. Like talk about sort of what the footprint looks like for you and the team.
Yeah, lots of ways to describe this. And, some vanity metrics, some, important ones. I mentioned earlier, we distribute about $500 million worth of products by wholesale value per year. And California's market is about $2 to $2.5 billion in wholesale value, so it's about $4 to $5 billion in retail. Otherwise, we have distribution infrastructure that spans the whole state. So we have 3 warehouses one central hub in Woodlake, California, which is really close by Fresno in Central California. And then we have spokes, basically just cross-stock warehouses that don't store inventory. They're more like layover hubs in Oakland and LA to service those major hubs. And so the combined total square footage is 150,000 square feet. We have 300 people on the team, and everyone comprised of software engineers, operations managers, delivery drivers, warehouse workers, and corporate staff, marketing and sales marketing. Yeah.
What is something that is showing up in the business today that when you were originally thinking about starting the business, you didn't anticipate would be something that people were either focused on, like it could be like customers are asking for?
Yeah. I mean, when we started the business, contrary to my background in tech, I actually started doing deliveries myself just, for the first like 9 months of the business. And no one cared how fancy your tech was. People just wanted to get their products from point A to point B. And that's what we kind of built everything around, just fulfillment. You think it was like an Uber or a DoorDash for wholesale deliveries. And as these brands sort of grew up, there were a lot of things that actually came into the fold that our platform encapsulates today that we didn't think we would. We have a wholesale marketplace now, kind of like an Alibaba style platform. We have a factoring service, so we provide short-term financing loans for brands on a transactional basis, on a transaction by transaction basis. We provide data analytics services. We have a whole credit scoring system that's probably one of the most robust in the industry. Just given we handle not just product fulfillment, but we also handle payment collections too. So we understand the sort of credit worthiness of retailers across the portfolio we distribute to. And so we turned that into like a 1 through 5 rating system to make it really easy for brands to understand directionally at least how to sell and how many, what sort of payment terms to give.
Talk a little bit about that, because everybody knows that is a problem in California specifically. Like, how does that, like, part of it is like risk assessment, like that you're talking about, but part of it is like there's some structural challenges in the California market. How do you handle that? It's pretty big footprint that you have and delivering to all those places and all the wholesaling. Like, what does that look like as you factor it into your business?
Yeah, I mean, every brand matters. With 300 brands, it's everyone. Our platform, I think, to take a step back, it's important to know that a big nuance between our company and another full suite distributor, if you will, is that we don't buy and sell products as a traditional distributor might. We're more like a FedEx platform. We're like a fulfillment logistics platform.
So less risk on your part.
Less risk, but also what it gives, the advantage it gives the brands is that it allows them to control their own narrative. It allows them to control who they sell to, how they sell to, what sort of discounts. And we sort of get out of the way as opposed to other third-party distributors. They're sort of in the middle of everything and
navigating
everything.
Like relationships.
Navigating relationships.
Yeah.
Was that intentional on your part?
Yeah. We honestly wanted to democratize the cannabis space. And, when we got into the industry, it's still fairly unclear which brands are going to win, on the broader landscape nationally. A lot have shown early signs of success, but ultimately, for one reason or another, fizzled out pretty quickly. I think it also goes to show that consumer trends can shift pretty quickly too. You came from men's fashion. I think cannabis is no different than that, if not worse, in terms of
we were
people
talking,
wanting the new.
We were talking yesterday about the lifespan of a SKU in California, and it's like somewhere between 3 and 4 months. And you compare that to other markets, and it looks really different. But 3 or 4 months, that's when the point that it enters into a retail environment, and then it is sold down and out. And another fun fact is that there are 30% of SKUs in cannabis stores right now, or about 30%, have 5 items or less.
Got it. Yeah.
So you can imagine that there is always this movement of either sellout or like lingering SKUs, and you would see that in your data, but from the other side.
Yeah, exactly. I think SKUs turn over really quickly. When we first few years, our top 10 brands every quarter would be totally different from the last. And so
repeatability.
Sometimes they would like show back up later in the year, but it's just it's a consistency thing for a brand to be able to build long-term loyalty from consumers. And it's been, I mean, we wanted to give everyone a fair shot at getting to market essentially. So instead of throttling it, we wanted to enable it.
Yeah, I just think when an industry is developing, like in New York, and we talk to people in New York talking about the industry and how it's challenging because there's not real scale yet and all that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think regulators certainly aren't thinking about it, but like all the parts of the industry that come along next, like all the parts of the supply chain that just evolve and innovate, and like it is a robust industry. Like, thinking about California, a robust industry with every movement along the way. Like people like you, like filling the gaps that need to be filled. And I just think it's not thought of that way from like people putting together markets.
Yeah. I mean, I think when people put it together, there's always different hats that people put on. I think first everyone puts on a policy hat, and gets really into it from a social equity standpoint, gets really into it from like a tax standpoint or like, ethics standpoint. And I think it's important. But for instance, New York, I think it took them a long time to get the market rolling. Frankly, a lot of them there are a lot of experts in the room who put a lot of thought and time into actually, in my opinion, building one of the most like robust frameworks for cannabis market to exist. But, I think
except for the actual market.
Except for the market. I think that's the thing. And to their credit lately, I think they've been making a lot of more quick adjustments to getting the market rolling. Like earlier this Monday, the CCB just rolled out 460 or so new, or just released 460 or so card licenses on the retail side of things. So
you have their addresses, right?
Yeah, supposedly. Supposedly it's listed publicly. But yeah, I mean, I think getting the market rolling, it is very much like a chicken and the egg problem. To your point, supply chain is as strong as the weakest link. It's like a physics problem where an object is that way too. And so for the New York market, you can't just have brands, and you just can't just have retailers. You need both at the same time. Right now, the retail tier is just becoming this like, choke point for the entire supply chain. And there's so many brands that are coming to market, relatively speaking, and everyone's just excited for the market to get going. And I think for us, like, we just applied for distribution license, and we're excited to hopefully be, one of the first few in the New York market to do third-party distribution. But it's a much-needed service in New York too, and you can't, it's by the same logic, you can't have both brands and retailers without the logistics side, because they need to transact at scale.
Yeah, and it's a big state too.
Yeah. To get from Buffalo to the other end of Long Island takes about like 12 hours. So.
Yes, we do that drive sometimes. I know that drive. Vince, I really appreciate you taking the time as part of the show, of course, but also to share sort of the backstory and insight from the company and sort of how it's going. So thanks for making time while we're here at Planet 13, which is a pretty good place to do interviews.
Yeah,
honestly.
I was going to say, I've not done one at a dispensary before, and this is great.
No, it's really
unique.
If you have to do one, this is the one to do it in. Like, they've been so gracious with their space and time. So
it's cool. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
He is Vince Ning from Nabis. We will be right back with Justin Johnson talking about chill steel pipes. We'll be right back from Planet 13. This is Cultivated Live. Thanks.
Cool.